how do you even get here as a visitor? If you don't qualify for ESTA, how do you even get here as a visitor so you can come to attend conferences, so you can come to maybe think about how your company's going to open in the US. You have business meetings set up with people like this organization, with realtors, with potential business partners. If you're going to have to apply for a B1 visa, you would file the form DS-160 online, you get an appointment, you go to the consulate to get your visa. You must have strong evidence that you're going to go back. There are certain countries where the US has lost all trust that you're going to go back. If you're a young, single person, they immediately will believe that you're coming here to work or you're not going back. And that's whether you're from Canada, UK, China, Africa. They treat everyone the same. So you have to be prepared for that conversation with both the consular officer when you're trying to get the visa and then the customs officer as you're trying to enter the US. I'm going to go through quickly the different visa categories, but for this slide, there are a couple of categories, specifically the TN, E1, and E2. You can go right to the consulate and get your visa. Other categories such as H1B, L1, and O1, which I'll talk about in a second, they require you first to file a petition with the US Immigration Service, get it approved, then you can go to the consulate and get a visa to come to the US. The most common work visa in the US is called H1B. This is only for when a US company offers a job that is a specialty occupation, which means the job duties are so complex that it requires one with a specialized bachelor's degree, and the foreign national applying for the H-1B has that specialized bachelor's degree. Software engineer, perfect example. It requires a job in either computer science or software engineering, and the company's offering a job where the duties require that degree, perfect H-1B. A terrible H-1B, you're offering a job as a product manager, but the person has a degree in, from a foreign country in French literature. It's just not going to work. You could substitute work experience for the degree. So if a person has many years of work experience in product management, we can get a professional opinion that that replaces the degree in that field. Here's the problem with H-1Bs. And most of you, I think, in this audience are talking about the need to bring over professional workers with degrees and the need to employ them in the US using their degree. So we are talking about H-1B as probably the best solution. The problem with H-1Bs, there's only 85,000 new H-1Bs a year. The demand this past year was 460,000, but I'm pretty sure it was even exceeding 600,000. It's just that many people don't speak up and say they have the need. So the US government conducts a lottery to pick out the 85,000 H-1Bs every year. It's ridiculous. No other country would figure out who their next generation of business and scientific leaders are going to be based on a random lottery, but that's what the United States is doing. And they pick out the 85,000 winners, and if you don't win, you're out until you try again for the next year. Great news, just this past year, USCIS, that's the US Immigration Service, changed its regulations to make it clear that if you are the founder of your own company, your company can sponsor you for H-1B. That has always been up in the air and a main reason why you might be denied H-1B, but now it's clear. You can, in fact, have your own company sponsor you for H-1B. What are some of the other options? I think for this crowd, you really should understand L1, E1, and E2. L1 is for a multinational company where there's a company outside the US and a company inside the US, and they have a qualifying relationship. Maybe one owns the majority of the other, or maybe they're sister organizations where the same group of people own both. That would be a multinational company that can transfer a key worker from outside the U.S. to its U.S. branch. The worker, though, for L1 purposes, must have been employed for at least 1 year abroad with the foreign entity before he or she can come on an L1. And it must be 1 year of the past 3 years from the day you file that application. E1 and E2 are work visas only for companies from certain countries with whom the U.S. has a treaty, either for trade, which would be an E1 visa, or a treaty for investment, which would be the E2. We have these treaties with probably 60, 70 countries. It's the most typical suspects. It's the Western European countries, Japan, Australia. It's the countries we're most friendly with, but you'd be shocked to find out there's several countries in the Middle East and Africa and South America that also have treaties for investment or trade. It would permit a U.S. company that is at least 50% owned by citizens of that country with whom we have a treaty to establish a U.S. company and bring in foreign nationals from that country. So let's just say you're from the Netherlands. We do have a treaty for investment and trade with the Netherlands. You could start a U.S. company and prove that it's at least 50% owned by Dutch citizens or by a Dutch company. And suddenly, you can bring over an investor who's invested or a key employee. And that employee does not need to have worked for you for 1 year like the L1 abroad. They could be a brand new hire. And as long as they're a Dutch citizen, they can come work for you. So this is invaluable for those companies who are from a country with whom the U.S. has one of these treaties. The O1, a great solution for people who are considered to be extraordinary, who are among the very top in their field in either their own country or the U.S. It sounds daunting. It's not all that daunting because the rules of how to prove you're extraordinary are somewhat reasonable. And if you have some awards or prizes, or you've played a critical role for a distinguished company, maybe some media coverage, or you've ever been selected to be the judge of the work of others, these are the things the U.S. immigration officer is looking for. And you could qualify for an O1. But the big benefit of why Ian and I were asked to come present today is, what do you do if none of those work? How can you get a qualified person to the United States at any time of the year without having to win a lottery? How do you get them to work here? Well, there is a way, and it's called a cap-exempt H-1B. So I went through the H-1B, specialty worker with a degree in the field, but it turns out Congress states that there are 4 organizations that never need to win the lottery in order to bring over a foreign national. We're talking about universities, nonprofit organizations affiliated with universities, nonprofit research organizations, and government research organizations. They're not subject to the lottery cap of 85,000, and that's why they're called cap-exempt H-1B organizations. They can file an H-1B at any time. Here's the little-known secret sauce. Any private company, from a startup to a mid-size to a large company, any company can access a cap-exempt H-1B for a foreigner to work for their company if they partner with one of the 4 organizations that are the 4 cap-exempt organizations. So, let's say you have a company, you have the right person. You have to have her come. She needs to come now. If you have a connection to a university a nonprofit affiliated with the university or a nonprofit research organization, if you can get them to hire her for part-time work, they could file an H-1B for her right away without winning the lottery, and she can come work part-time for them. And then as soon as she's here, we have a rule called a concurrent H-1B that says anybody in the U.S. in H-1B status, part-time, whether they've won the lottery or because they're here working for one of those 4 organizations, that person can immediately be sponsored by any company in the U.S. to also work for them concurrently at the same time without winning the lottery. So if you have that connection, amazing. Use that connection. Get them to hire her for 5 hours a week. Get them to sponsor for H-1B. She's here. Now your company can immediately file her for concurrent H-1B to work at the same time. But what if you don't have that connection? I co-founded a company called the Build Fellowship. It's powered by Open Avenues Foundation. Open Avenues is a nonprofit organization affiliated with universities. Open Avenues is one of the 4 cap-exempt organizations that can always file an H-1B. Open Avenues will hire your talent part-time, will put him or her to work for 5 hours a week doing very interesting work, which we'll tell you about in just 1 second. We'll pay that person the fair wage. We will comply with every H-1B regulation. Not just says me, says the U.S. Immigration Service, who has audited Open Avenues Foundation 5 times in the past 5 years, and every time they say, oh my God, you are fully compliant with the law, keep going. So that is why Open Avenues Foundation has 385 consecutive approvals for cap-exempt H-1Bs, because we are following the rules. Open Avenues partners with 15 universities across the United States. Why would a university want to partner with us? Because Open Avenues is taking the talented foreign national that we're hiring for 5 hours a week, and we're putting them to work to offer their talent to train the future workforce of America. And we only offer it, though, to the students at our 15 university partners across the United States. So let's say you have one of these people. It's a software engineer. You need him to come now. We will hire that software engineer. We'll get a cap-exempt H-1B approved immediately, like within weeks. We'll hire them for 5 hours a week to take university students through a hands-on learning opportunity of what is a software engineering project like at a big company. They're actually doing the project. They've never had this experience, and our students, by the hundreds and hundreds, are signing up for our projects because it's free. The universities love it because they've investigated the quality of our projects, and they are like, this is unbelievable, and they get it for free. Who's paying for it? The company, your company. You're paying for your key employee you need here. You're paying for that work for their doing for the 5 hours a week. How does it work? Oh, and who is the Build Fellowship, by the way? Our Open Avenues Foundation was so successful that my daughter and I were approached by many other nonprofits who said, can we do this too? Can we get affiliated with universities so we can, because we have a whole group in Texas. We have people in California. We have all these connections. We could really help beef up those ecosystems as well. We said, sure. But we weren't going to reinvent the wheel for every new nonprofit. So we created the Build Fellowship. Build Fellowship is just running the show. And all the nonprofits are riding along under, by the contact with the Build Fellowship. So the nonprofits, like Open Avenues, they must be the one who hires your talented person for 5 hours a week. They must be the one that files the petition with the U.S. Immigration Service for the cap-exempt H-1B. But Build Fellowship is the back engine making it all happen. So your company can partner with any of the nonprofits under the Build Fellowship. Just On our website, you nominate your talent. You say, I have this talented person, I need them here. Or I'm a new company opening. Can we chat about how I'm going to get 3 people here now? The first thing we'll do is see, do they qualify for any of these other things that are much easier, faster, and less expensive? Can they do an L1? Can they do an O1? Could they do an E2? If so, we help you with that. But if they can't, we'll take you through everything I'm saying. We'll take you through the cap-exempt H-1B. We'll figure out, is there a specialty occupation? Is this going to be approved? That's the bottom line. Can we get this cap-exempt H-1B approved? We'll take you through, is this a good specialty occupation? Do they have the right degree? If so, we will sponsor an H-1B, a cap-exempt H-1B. If they're here, great. If they're not here, we'll get it approved, and we'll get them here on an H-1B visa, and immediately your company can file your full-time H-1B without winning the lottery, because this person was already here in the U.S. working in cap-exempt H-1B status. Last slide. Mason. I've never met Mason in person because I'm working with these people every day, but they're everywhere across the United States and everywhere across the world. So while I've never met him in person, he's emailed me maybe 100 times to thank me and my team. Ian gets the emails all the time. I get them every day. Oh my God, how possibly did this happen? There was no path, and now there was a path, and I'm here. Thank you. Ian, what he says is the Bill Fellowship put together a superb program. We're able to get our employee from overseas and shepherd his H-1B cap process. Highly recommend as the complete end-to-end solution. Now, what Mason didn't say is he himself came in a cap-exempt H-1B, and then he started to help his company bring over some others. So we'll be here at the reception later today. We'd love a chance to chat with you and answer any questions you all have about how can you, with immigration solutions, open up in the U.S. Thank you, everybody.